I grew up and live in Prince Edward Island. In talking to some younger members of the island's gay community, I came to realize that our social history is disappearing. Our legal battles are there, you can Google them, but what about how we built community? We don't have an oral history, and that's why we've created this archive, to give an overview of gay life on PEI pre-internet. In doing research, we found we could really only go back as far as the 1970s, and that's why it's mostly gay and lesbian islanders we'll be talking about. As was true of the era, that was our understanding of the breadth of our community at that time. It should be noted, though, that island artist Erica Rutherford was a trailblazer for transgender people both here and elsewhere. And in reaching out to the island's indigenous community, PEI's first people, the Mi'kmaq, we came to understand that truly theirs was not our story to tell. Our hope with this archive, then, is that we're adding our voices to what has for too long been considered Prince Edward Island's only history. I'd like to start with kind of finding out when you came to PEI and why.
Well, in 1987, I came down. Customers of mine up in Ontario, my business, had sold their house and were moving to PEI. Early '87, they came down and found a house over in Murray Harbour North. So I had nothing to do. I had sold the place, so she said, "Would you like to come down with me and help me move down?" I said, "Sure." So we came down and renovated the place. And finally, I decided I wanted to sell or up there and come down here. My friends are all saying, "What are you going to Prince Edward Island for?" And I said, "Because I'm going down to turn it into a gay island, and I'm going to call it Princess Edward Island." So that's always been my joke, you know. And so I arrived here, knowing nobody but the two ladies, and back and forth. I went into town to the spa one night, and I met a chap there. We were just talking and stuff, and I realized that, hey, there are some gay people on the island. And then they introduced me to a few other people, Mike Surtees, Motorcycle Mike, and he said, "Why don't you have a party, Jim? You have a big house." So I said, "Sure." So I cleaned out one room and told everybody to come at 8, like we usually do. You come at 8, and you go home at midnight, because I had to open the grocery store at 7 in the morning. And one guy arrived, and we sat and chatted for a while, and then at 10 o'clock, I said, "Well, I guess there's nobody coming to my party," so I'm getting ready to go to bed. Started turning the lights off and looked up the hill and saw this row of cars coming down, and all of a sudden those signal lights came on, and they all pulled in, and Mike was one of the first in, and he sort of made me feel comfortable and at ease, and the party began, and 7 o'clock in the morning came too soon.
You were well and truly welcomed
so
then.
Oh, that's great, I mean, I didn't know whether there was anybody here. All I saw when I came here was with the ladies was the Guardian, I guess, said Lesbian Hotline, Tuesday and Thursdays, or one night a week, yes, and 800 number. So, well, there are some people in it. And then eventually they called us and asked us if we would like to join and do it on Thursday. They did it on Tuesday or vice versa, I can't remember. And we did that. And they basically said at that party at this meeting that they wanted our money, but didn't want to have anything to do with the guys.
Right.
So, okay, fine. So I started having more parties, and then I had the first Thanksgiving dinner, I think it was 1989. And guys came, and then we'd have parties again, and the guys came, and finally somebody said, "The girls want to know why they can't come," and I said, "Well, I understand that they don't like us." And they said, "No, that's the women's collective that ran that." And I said, "Well, fine," so they were welcome. We had lots of time, fun, and I'm still doing it after 32 years.
I just want to back up for a second, Jim. You were coming from Ontario, right? Yeah.
So I was sort of going back and forth.
Yeah.
Just trying to get a feel. So in February I came down to see what the winters were like, and arrived in this full-length fur coat of mine, and they picked me up at the airport and said, "Oh, I think you're going to have to get rid of that." I said, "Why?" "Well, I don't think he wants people know we're gay." And I said, "So it's a coat."
Yeah, right.
As if everybody didn't know anyway, you know.
Was there other code though that you can think of? Not necessarily clothing.
Oh, one thing that when I was in Toronto, I used to go down to Toronto, was a certain kind of cologne a guy
Huh.
would wear, and it was usually came in the ward, and it was one of those things, walk by him and turn around and see where he's going on Young Street, you know?
Right. And we don't have a Young Street. Did you do that on University Avenue? Or?
No, there was nothing down here. And then, you know, then there was the block, you know, years ago, and so I would frequent that.
Yeah, so an area where I don't.
Every town, village
Has one.
has one.
Can you just tell us, in not a lot of detail, just sort of what that was about?
Some people would be walking.
Yeah.
Some people would be driving. Some people would be on bicycles. And if you saw them go around the same block 4 or 5 times and sort of looking at everybody that's walking by, you knew that they were probably cruising and things like that, you know?
They weren't lost.
No, no.
Yeah.
No. And that's some nice people there. Through the years.
Yeah, that's what it was for.
Yeah.
What about other areas? Are there cruising or meeting areas in, well, anywhere on the island that you can think of?
Not meeting as such. I'm going to go out and see if I can pick up. There was Jeffrey Hayton and his partner at the time. They also started having house parties. So between the two of us, we had the house parties until we found that it was too big. And that's when we went to the Queen's Arms.
Okay, so basically the dances that we had at the Queen's Arms started from the house parties that you and Jeffrey,
Yes.
not independently, but separately would have.
Right.
Okay, and did the house parties you were having, you were collecting funds for the hotline? Is that?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so then we moved to the Queen's Arms Motel and we'd have a dance. Can you
Dance,
talk
yeah.
a little bit about that?
Well, they kicked us out. so I think we went to the Best Western then.
That's why we moved. I always wondered. Okay. And what about, how long, any idea how long we were at the Best Western for dances?
Oh, maybe say 5 years. Or
Okay.
something like that.
And were they once a month?
Yeah, usually once a month.
Okay.
And we had we would have our Valentine's dance there, and I guess we had a couple of New Year's dances there, and so yeah, they were well received.
Okay. But then we moved on from there.
To the Delta.
Yeah. Now, was there any reason, no problem?
No,
at the
again,
Best-
I think just getting bigger. It just
Yeah.
kept getting bigger, and you know, like for Pride dances at the Delta, we would have 300 people there. I was never looking after any of the decorating, but Doug Ellis and Darren Dunsford and some of these guys, they really decorated great, you know,
Yeah.
and the theme was super.
Did
And
we?
the nice thing about the Delta was if people, when the regular dances, or even the theme dances, if you didn't want to sit in the aisle while the music was on, you could sit out in the hallways. They had a
Yeah.
nice set up where there was love seats and chairs for people.
Now, we don't have dances at the Delta anymore,
No.
really. We don't. We moved to Mavers after that.
Years after that. And they were nice because we got to visit each other. Like when we
Right.
were in the country, you didn't see people
Exactly,
until
yeah.
the monthly dance.
Yeah.
And I always tried to go around to every table when I got there and say hello. And if there was somebody new, I'd introduce myself and ask them where they were from. You know, are you pulling from Surrey, from Tignish, or are you just local that have come out? And I always was basically the last to leave, saying goodbye, have a good time. And I remember one time I was there, and this young fellow came by, and I heard him talking. And they said, "Oh, if one more old man talks to me, I'm going to throw up or something." I said, "Excuse me, but I don't like your attitude." And he says, "Well, that's tough." And I said, "I'm going to tell you something." He says, "Oh, I don't have to listen to you." And somebody says, "It's Jim. You're going to listen to him." And I said, "Listen, we're not. We started these when there was nothing here. You're lucky you can come to a place like this. And we would just like to know where you were coming from. When I go and introduce myself to somebody that's new, I just say, you know, where are you from? Just to know whether you're here or local or whatever. Not that everybody's trying to pick up you, you know."
Yeah.
And I did get an email the next day from him apologizing.
Oh, nice.
And he was he ended up in the Navy. One
Okay.
day he came in with his Navy duds on.
And then it was a different
Yeah,
story.
right, no more of this, no, Mitzi.
Jim, can you talk a little bit about when you arrived on PEI? Back, it was 87?
88.
88.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what the gay community or gay life was like on PEI?
Coming here, I thought I was alone,
Mhm.
you know. Once I started having the parties and then, getting into the media for things that were happening and putting my flag up for the first time. I don't know if anybody else ever had a flag up in their yard and things like that, and the media was asking why. And I would get calls from people to tell me to go back where I came from. I'd say, why? And they said, well, because you're putting us in the dark ages. And I said, I'm not putting you in the dark ages, I'm trying to bring you up into the modern times. I said, do you live with somebody? And they said, yes. Are you partners? Yes. And I said, well, do people not know? No. Do you never go to a movie together or walk down the street together or go grocery shopping together? And they said, no, not really. And I said, well, that's really sad. I mean, I'm not going to put my head in the sand for anybody.
Yeah.
Just think of what you could come out and enjoy yourselves at these parties.
Did you ever feel on the island here, was there a fear of physical violence or anything like that?
Yes. Once I moved from Blair Hall and went up to the Rainbow Lodge and painted the place, the rainbow colors and stuff, I could always tell when a car was coming down the hill. You could tell if they were slowing down or if they were really slowing down, and you'd sort of look up and somebody might be going by mooning you and yelling faggot or something like. And there were many mornings I was picking up beer bottles on the yard. Yard. My sign was stolen. I was held at knife point for 7 hours once.
Wow.
So then I was stalked for about a month. Every time I got out of the car, there was a car sitting down at the bridge. And he ended up going up to Surrey, and the cops picked him up there.
At least it's good to hear that the police have been very responsive.
I cannot say anything bad about the police in PEI. They right from the get-go on Halloween night, they always would drive up and down, sit in my driveway for a little while, and then leave again and come back. And as you mentioned earlier too, sometimes it's the gay people in the gay community that can be the mean people. With somebody that's just not. I think people were probably afraid of me because I wasn't flamboyant, but I was out and I was in the media and people knew who I was, and they were afraid to talk to me in case,
guilty by association.
Yeah. Or, if there was a so-called married guy that came over one night, it was, well, if you see me on the street, my wife, don't let on.
Right.
And I said, listen, I'm a friendly person, I'll talk to anybody, and I'm not going to walk by without saying hello.
Yeah, yeah. Can you talk a little bit about publications we had on PEI or maybe the Maritimes for gay folks?
I think The Waves was here for quite a while, and then the Arc, and I have quite a few of the editions here. The first Arc edition, there was a rainbow. It was all black and white with a rainbow across it, and they colored every one of those publications that year with rainbows to make the color right.
Talk about a labor of love.
And it was good too. They had different people that would be interviewed, and I think they got people that would advertise and stuff in it to help them with the money.
So if I'm right, Waves was out of Halifax, but it had information for the whole region, right? And Arc Magazine, is that what it was called?
Yeah, it was the Arc Quarterly. Is what
Arc Quarterly
yeah.
Was an Abergwit Rainbow Collective, and it was island specific and made here.
Yeah.
And what would you say happened? We don't have dances anymore. We also used to have the colors dances, right?
Yeah, and poor Josh passed away.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about them? You're familiar with those, right?
Yeah. Josh, it was at Fishbones, actually, and Josh would rent it once a month and decorated it all up, and he was sort of the bartender, person in charge, and we had a lot of fun. And we did a cliquey groups, we talk and things like that. But it was good, and Josh was such a nice fellow. And then the next day I find out that he's dead,
Yeah.
So that sort of, somebody I think tried to keep on, but it just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
And then that was Colors, and then I guess maybe that's when Neighbors kicked in.
Right. Were we having colors at the same time we were having dances at the Delta?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
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 They
And I'm sorry, I'm going to regress
Yeah.
to when I came, and
Yeah.
I forgot about this Patch Rose and Grey Room.
yes.
And I heard that it was a place where you could maybe meet gay men. And so you would go in, and the gay men usually sat at the bar at the back end, and then the straight people sat at the front end. And sometimes there would be guys that would come in, and they'd look down at the gay end and then look at the straight end, and if there were too many straight guys that they knew, they'd stay there for the night and didn't bother going up to the other end, and stuff like that.
I have one more question for you. Do you have anything you'd like to add to this archive?
No, I just think that I just hope that as the years progress and we get older, that the young ones who are organizing things will also remember that they wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for some of the pioneers who put themselves out and got things happening here. Because it's a small island, a lot of people are still afraid to go out or say they're gay. And it's funny, when I moved here, I was, afraid of the neighbors, what they would say and stuff like that, but it doesn't take long to pick up. And through the years, I found out that, so-and-so's grandson is gay, and so-and-so's brother is gay, and, and this, I've always said, this is the best community to live in. They accepted me, and my best people that would congratulate me, or they would phone or telephone me or drop in and tell me that it was a good interview that I had on TV or a good newspaper, because they're at the end of their life and they're realizing if you're not happy, that's the only thing in life is to be happy, whether it's with two men, two women, or a husband and wife. You've got to be happy.